Hello, hello, and welcome to the Intuitive Wellness Experiment podcast, where we explore ancient wisdom, the transformative power of intuition, self awareness, spiritual sovereignty, and empowerment. I am your host, Christine, also known as the Cosmic Doula, and in each episode, we'll embark on a journey of self discovery, growth, diving deep into the realms of intuitive wellness. In our solo episodes, I'll share my personal experiences and insights of intuitive living, offering you practical tips and heartfelt stories from my own journey. And in our interview episodes, which we have today, I'll connect with inspiring individuals who have embraced their intuition and transformed their lives, inviting them to share their wisdom and experience with us on their journey of being and feeling well. So whether you're beginning your journey or seeking a deeper connection with your intuitive self, this podcast and your cosmic doula is here every step of the way. So join me as we explore the profound possibilities of living life guided by your intuition and empowered by self-awareness. Welcome, y'all. I am so excited for today's episode with my dear friend, Rebecca B. Scolnick. She is a writer of one of my favorite numerology books, a must have, The Witch's Book of Numbers, Enhance Your Magic with Numerology. She's a witch, she's a weirdo, she's a queer human lady who uses magic and storytelling to support the unlearning work and inspire new meaning and making. And that's exactly what we talked about with the numbers and how numbers definitely have this, invites us to explore new meaning with the messages that come from wherever they come from. This episode, I'm so excited for y'all to check out. We talk about so many things. B shares her journey to numbers and kind of this invitation that numbers gives us to, and it's how it's up for interpretation and how it's not really concrete. We talk about some cycles and karmic debt, all the things. So I'll let y'all go ahead and listen in. And yeah, it's a good one. So enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode. I have one of my favorite people on, Rebecca. Oh my goodness, what can I say? She's a writer, she's a witch, she's a weirdo, queer human lady. I could go on. I just heart you so much. But if you don't mind sharing introducing yourself to our audience, and if it feels good for you, some of our audience are cosmic seekers, so if you want to share any of your astrology, numerology numbers in there during your introduction, human design, feel free, whatever feels good for you.
Yes, thank you so much, Christine, for having me. I truly am so thrilled to be here. And I feel like this has been a long time coming for you and I to
Yeah.
share this podcast space together. So I'm just really honored to be here and also very honored to be loved by you. I love you so much. The feelings are so mutual. And yes, hello to everyone listening in this gorgeous community. My name is Rebecca or B. Scolnick, and I am definitely a writer, witch, and weirdo. Okay, let's see. I'm a Cancer sun,
Oh, happy
Libra moon. Oh, thank you. Yes, it's Sunday. It's coming up. I'm a 7/7 baby.
birthday.
And so seven has like a really profound impact on my life as a number, even though it doesn't really show up anywhere in my numerology chart on its own.
Interesting.
Um, in some of my name numbers. But anyway, I'm a Cancer sun, Libra moon, Sag rising, and I'm a 2/4 emotional manifester in human design. And I'm on a life path of 8, the embodied or the powerhouse in numerology. And yeah, I've been a seeker my whole life. Like at 7 years old, I picked a church out of the phone book and asked my parents to drop me off. And because I always have really been like looking for understanding and meaning and community and connection through magic and mystery and storytelling. And so for the last 15 years, I've really been on an eclectic witchy path of kind of gathering tools and modalities and spiritual practices and learning a lot and seeing what works for me that's also mine to use and, respectfully um, and yeah, it's been such a beautiful journey. It seems to have all culminated in the last couple of years in the form of a book called The Witch's Book of Numbers, which is out now wherever books are sold. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And now I'm just working on new book projects, but also writing about numbers and talking to other spiritual seekers like you, Christine, and yeah, just seeing what's next. I feel a little in transition, but excited for what's to come.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing. I did not know a lot of that. So that's why I love, these because I find something new about all my cool community. Um, First off, what pops up to me, so the fact that she, at 7 years old, you picked a random church out of a phone book seeking community. Like when I learned about, I don't know, I think I can't remember. It might have been my 7 year, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you remember. We've been connected for feels like a lifetime, but I
Yes.
feel like my seven personal year, I came to numerology and to you. And so just the fact of number seven at 7 years old, you're seeking, because when I think of the archetypes and how you taught and how you teach, I always think of seven as the questions and answers and like spiritual, spiritual seeking and knowledge. And so that just blows my mind right there. That's so beautiful. And then the fact that seven follows you, 277.
It totally does. It totally does. Yeah. So when I was a kid and even younger, like 4 or 5, my mom was a singer in the worship band at a non-denominational Christian church. And so I went and was a part of that church community with her. And then it was work. So she moved on to a Catholic church. And I went to the Catholic church like once or twice. And I was very there for the theatrics, the costumes, like everything. Then they did communion and they would not let me eat the snack. And I was like, this is terrible. I don't want to go to this church anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I did look up, it's like one of those things in my past that I'm like, I know this is true and I know that I did this and like what a little badass, but
Yeah,
also
I know.
like such a specific early 90s thing, like no parent would ever drop their child off at a church alone. I just, yeah, I don't understand it from that perspective now, like being on the flip side of that.
Right.
But what strikes me about seven, not only as the seeker or this like spiritual mysteries, wanting to dabble in the occult and the
Yeah.
esoteric, which the church absolutely does, even if they say they don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we're talking about like the great mysteries, and that's so seven. But also in astrology, that's the Saturn cycle. So seven is like the first age that we are aspected. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's um, that initial kind of hello to Saturn in terms
Mm.
of a teacher, but also kind of an authority figure, right? Like who I was looking to learn from at that time, or our first kind of conscious interactions with authority figures. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what
Oh,
you think about that.
facts. Like as you're speaking, I'm thinking of my daughter who is seven right now. And imagine if I just dropped her off at the church, like she would totally vibe with that. Like
Yeah.
totally. Because I see her, and it's interesting that you say that because I never thought of that. Like that's when, that aspect and Saturn comes into play. And they say 0 to 6 is the moon years. So you're really like integrating, like, okay, I was this other star being like out here, in a different lifetime. And then I'm incarnating in this world. Like, really, what does it mean? You're getting to understand your emotions and, you're really vibing, especially your mom, off of your your maternal or who's in your close environment, and then you get hit with reality and you understand authority and the boundaries and constrictions, and also spiritually opening your mind and tapping into energies. And like before it was just felt, it's just known, but now you kind of have to process it a little bit through the mental. And I see that with my daughter right now. It's like even just her coming into what it means, spirit, and her relationship with God, with spirits, with all of these things. And it's just like really beautiful. And then also to just like, think about, the restrictions of what comes with that. Because, on Sunday school, she's like in my mom, like Christian, church on Sunday with her cousin learning Ephesians, 29:12. And
Yes.
then me, I'm like, let's go to the altar and, give thanks. And so I can't even imagine what's going on in her head, but just allowing her and just seeing, her dibble dabble into that. So I think that's really beautiful. And then also you spoke on the connection with community too, because Kevin
Mm-hmm.
is really partnering or coming in with another. Thinking about the seventh house, right on that DC line. It's like the other, partnering. And so finding community in that. So I think that's just really, really, really beautiful. And remind me, seven, because 7/7 has so happy early birthday, happy
Yeah, thank you.
Saturn. Um, seven, so your birthday number or the numbers that add up to to a single digit. Is that your karmic debt? Remind me.
Oh
Or what's
gosh,
that middle
I don't
number?
know. It's not a karmic debt sounds like something I want to learn about, but not a number that I use in my own practice.
Okay.
So the just the month and the day of the birth, is
Or
that
actually just the day,
oh
reduced
just the
down.
day.
Yeah. So
Yes.
seven, it would be
Okay.
for you, and five, it would be for me.
Yes. So the day is really interesting because there are a lot of numerology practices that really hone in on that day. So you're right. If I were to expand my view of my chart,
Mhm.
seven would be a part of it. And I actually just did kind of a free introduction to another numerologist named Harriet Jackson.
Mhm.
And she teaches what she calls priestess numerology.
Okay.
And this isn't an endorsement, but it's not a recommendation. I really enjoyed what I found out of her work. I just am not very familiar. But she spent a lot of time on the day number and how it's gifts and challenges.
Yes.
There are absolutely, like you said, karmic debt. This idea of like what goes with us through these lifetimes, and specifically here in this manifestation, like what is the embodiment of who we could be on this path. And so is really interesting in combination with me of feeling like, yes, that definitely accounts for kind of my mystic side.
Yeah.
And it accounts for the push pull that I feel quite like the hermit, in nine of
Mhm.
like, seven wants to go to the bottom of the rabbit hole by itself, but then it wants to come out and like talk about it with other people and be like, what was your journey down the rabbit hole? Like with still some separation, I think, between like what the wisdom that you've experienced and kind of then holding space for others.
Mhm.
I'm rambling
100%.
now, but
No,
yeah.
you're not. I'm loving everything because I'm just thinking of like even how we met. And like that's why I resonate with you so strongly, is because that seven energy, now that we think about it and thinking of it as the karmic debt or the thing that kind of follows you. But you do share and you teach in a way that's constantly seeking, constantly asking questions of others. Like, this is what I think, but what is your view? What is your concept? I'm curious as to, what you're learning. And it's beautiful just to know you these last couple of years and to see you always questioning and answering and questioning spirituality. It's like, is this real? Is this not? And like always on this seeker journey, which I think is just so beautiful, which I think all teachers should have. And that's why I love learning from you. And go buying your books and attending your classes, because I think that's such a beautiful way to see knowledge, see information, and see, question the mysteries, because the mysteries are mysteries for a reason. They're meant to be questioned.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really deeply hear that and appreciate that. And it is funny because I feel like one of the only thing that I know is that I don't know.
Yes, yes,
I
yes.
I
I
could
love when you say that.
never,
Yeah.
yeah, I could never even fathom saying yes with absolute certainty, this is this, because I just fully don't know. And I am attracted to other seekers and teachers who can really hold that space for like, this is what I've learned, this is what I think, this is what I'm vibing with at this moment in time, but subject to change as we learn, as we grow, because it's not very marketable to say,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
facts. Yeah.
please work with me, even though I can't tell you anything real. But at the same time, I do think it calls the right people
It
into my
does.
space. Yeah, and I have to trust that more. I think that's part of kind of this seven energy as well, is trusting that won't be a turnoff
Mhm.
to people, like the right people will be drawn in rather than turned off. But I
Mhm.
also, you can tell me about this. I hear
Mhm.
I have in human design a repelling aura with my
Mm.
manifester
Mm.
self. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Yeah. Not instinctively, like the core human design, like same with, numbers and numerology, I play with and I see how it sits in my body. So, nah. Okay, to me, when you say that to me, I got a repelling aura. Um, Maybe so for people who are not meant to be in your aura,
Yeah.
or who are not your right person. Because to me, I don't see that. But I guess with manifestors too, that you're like it's here to, start something new. So I guess, I could see it in, that aspect. I'm going to study a little bit more about that. But not to me. I feel like with the manifestor energy, like it's here to start and initiate and to do things a new way, even the way that you're teaching or you're approaching teaching. Like, I know this as much as I know now. Like, that's just a new concept, a new way. And I feel like it's the way that we need to be going towards, as we are currently dismantling systems and dismantling these structures and these institutions, especially school and education. When I think of seven, I think of education. And, I see that as, you manifesting, you starting and you initiating a new way of that seven vibration, and also leaning into spirit and knowing just spirit's got you too with whatever you say, because you are such a beautiful, witchy person. Like you have that energy, that ashe within you, and then whatever you say out of your mouth is kind of what's supposed to.
Oh,
I don't know if
thank
any
you.
of that made sense, but that's
Yeah, of
what I was
course.
feeling.
Of course. No, thank you for that. And yeah, I use this quote in a lot of my my classes on the slide. I contribute or attribute the idea of co-teaching and co-learning,
Mhm.
which I learned from a breathwork instructor named Amy Koretsky. And just this idea that we can create these collaborative learning spaces that, yes, in this instance, I am the one speaking to you. I have prepared these, slides behind me with this information. And also at the same time, I am not an authority figure here. Like, how can we share a non-hierarchical learning space that holds a lot of room for everyone to be bringing all of their own magic and wisdom
Yes.
to the space as well? So I really appreciate that is happening, that is what the space feels like, because I learned so much from listening to other people
Mhm.
and from clients. In fact, like I just had a client in this last week who showed up and was like, I'm a huge fan of the book. And also, let's talk about how everything was written with like such poetry. And then 11 felt like a warning. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like I just never thought about that before. And it was a moment where I could have seen a different version of myself getting really defensive, because
Mm,
I think that's also a part of seven energy and a part of me is to
yeah.
feel like when questioned, we have to defend.
Mm,
Like,
yeah. I
do
feel
not come to me like I have learned this, I've done my research. Like I feel like that haughty energy can be very much seven. And I was really happy in that moment to be like, oh, I'm curious about what you received from that working. And actually, at the time, I was dealing with some 11 folks in my life, and we were having some spicy moments. So maybe that did come through in like the writing of that number. Anyway, that's just what
Oh my
this whole thing
goodness.
made me think of.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I could see that energy, like what you just described, that could be repelling, right? That low vibration of the seven, of like, what I got to defend, and then
Yeah,
that's
my wife can tell you all about that. The defensive side of me. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I would love to know and you spoke a little bit about, the magic of the numbers. And that's what I love about your book. It's enhancing your magic with numerology. And I love all of these modalities, but something about numerology, it really allows me to tap into my inner magician, to alchemize. There's like alchemy, magic, divine mathematics, I've heard it called. But there is this energy of magic in it. I would love to know your journey to understanding the magic of numbers and what brought you to numerology and how on your seeker, it's clearly not your life path, but on your seeker. And I don't want to say karmic
Yeah.
debt. What does she say? What does she call that number?
Oh, I don't even know. I should
Okay.
look it up.
Well, it's karmic debt. Okay, we're
Yeah,
going with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But even just knowing that, like you're a seeker, karmic debt. Well, yeah, what brought you to numbers and where did you experience that magic and where did magic come in and why did
Yeah.
you kind of highlight that in your book? Lots of questions, but
Totally. No, thank you for all of them. I love this conversation because now I've never thought about karmic debt before,
yeah.
but now with that new understanding, I'm like, oh man, this is why I keep getting pulled back into the land of spirit and the land of magic. Like if this is really, because I'm on an 8 life path here, which is one step on the spiral past seven
Right.
and really about like embodiment and power and what can you do. But I've really been learning through the challenges. Like I've been growing through the challenge side of 8, which is insecurity, imposter syndrome. What the hell am I doing here? Like kind of some of the aspects of seven as well. But so anyway, I love this. Thank you.
Yes.
But I really see my work with numerology as being a cosmic joke in and of itself because I have a total art brain,
Mm,
which means that my math brain is absolutely not firing on any or all cylinders. So in high school, I had to go to tutoring just to pass like basic algebra.
mhm,
And I was never connected with numbers or science. It always made me feel really stupid, actually, because I was excelling in these other areas and just could not get it together with the left side of the brain.
mm,
And then in high school, it was totally full circle. Now I'm on the worship team at my youth group at a church. Like I definitely stayed connected to a church community. And then I had a rift with my youth pastor. I had this moment of real, like a power grab and control and kind of a wielding of God against me. And again, something in it, I think that was actually the second Saturn. Like
mm,
I was around 14, 15. So this would
mm,
have been now the opposition where authority like tries to tell me something. And I was like, no, no, like I came to this church looking for something. I'm not here to be controlled by the thing that I'm seeking.
mm.
And so I ended up leaving the church and like divesting from dogma, whatever dogma was still rolling around in there.
Mhm.
And numerology was one of the first modalities that I experimented with outside of a church setting, because then if you're not trying to find this one specific view of the divine, then I was like, well, how many things can tell me about the divine? And I got really lucky. My mom really encouraged that exploration. She had my astrology chart done, and then she had my numerology chart done. And it was by a sidewalk mystic in like a beach town in Northern California. Yes, which I also think is so key in all of this,
How
because it's
were
like
you 14?
I think I was a little older by
Okay.
the time I got my chart
Okay,
done, maybe
gotcha.
like 16 or
Okay.
17. But the fact that it came from a sidewalk mystic, like, who cares about his credentials? Who cares
Mm.
about, like, none of that mattered. It was like, oh, this person has offered me something. And reading about numbers and number energy and just the little chart that he did for me, it really was like all of these puzzle pieces kind of clicking into place for me,
Mm.
because for the first time, like, numbers actually felt accessible and magical in a
Wow.
way that was separate from like the real failure that I felt I experienced in school. And so, but it took me a long time to want to commit to that,
Mhm.
because again, I shared, I have a lot of imposter stuff. So I just kept thinking like, well, you're not good at math, so you're not going to be good at numerology, obviously.
Mhm.
And I think the longer that I worked with it and the longer that I read about it and studied it, and there's a lot in the numerological space that's pretty much everything is channeled, right? We can link some of this lineage stuff back, but a lot of it is kind of universal information that popped up across the globe in a lot of schools of thought, but then a lot of really channeled personal information. So I do think, especially in the numerological space, you need a lot of discernment
Yeah.
to see like what resonates with you and what doesn't,
Oh, good point.
and how people are getting to these calculations. But to answer the question about like the alchemical magic of it, yeah, it's something about it like really rooted me back to those philosopher scientists that we read about, like the Galileos and the Keplers. And um, yeah, of course, Pythagoras is part of my numerological lineage. But I really think about these
Daddy
thinkers.
digit.
What? Daddy
Yes.
Digits, yes. I love him so much. He's the
Yes.
only daddy I love. But I really, it put me back into that, into a laboratory almost of
Mm.
sorts, and made me feel like the excitement behind the idea that you could be using this information to unravel the mysteries of the universe, and
Mm.
that we could start by just finding out our own mystery. Like, I think we are such a mystery to ourselves in so many ways. And this was a modality that really allowed me to start figuring myself out in a new way, which was really cool to me.
Yeah.
And I might have lost the plot now,
No, I
but
love that.
yeah, and I think oh, the last thing that I will say is I do think I believe in the divine spark, and that has many names, whatever that fragment of cosmic divinity is within us, and the part that links us to all of our lifetimes and beings and everyone else on this planet. And so it did feel like, oh, we're all made up of this code. And that made some intrinsic sense to me. So I do think, again, numbers are interesting because they live in dual spaces of like practical and magical.
Yeah.
And so the blending of those two is really powerful and also really personal, because it's just further exploring what we have within us and how we want to then show that to the world.
Ah, yes, 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 yes. It's exploring what's within us. And then how do we want to present that to the world? Oh, I'm going to use that quote. I'm gonna
Yeah.
when I teach numerology section for the Cosmic Wisdom School, because that is so true. That is so true. And that's such a beautiful point in the what you've weaved and what you've shared throughout your story. So thank you so much for sharing it, because I really do like it's so true that numerology is interpretations, right? It's like, what do you see?
Yeah.
Like even angel numbers, you can go like what, and I loved your class on angel numbers. I don't know if it's still available, but is a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful, highly suggest y'all check that out because um even just that story, hearing that story, because it was channeled, right? Like these angel numbers were channeled, and like the whole system around angel numbers was channeled. And now she denounced it all. And so
Yes.
that's just like so interesting. So it's like really up for interpretation. And similarly with numerology, like or astrology, you get typecast to like a kid say, oh, you're gonna cry all the time, or you want to travel all over the world, with your Sagittarius, but you get stuck in those labels. But numerology is like really like, what do you feel about these different vibrations of numbers? And, coming to the realness of it, of yes, numbers are scary for a lot of
Yeah.
people. And you talk about the heavy weight that comes with numbers around
Hmm.
currency, around, products and all of these things. But again, if we flip that vibration and you create this own energy or alchemy with the numbers, like it takes like a whole new thing. And I feel like that's what has been resonant so much for me, is when I've worked with numbers and had my numerology readings with you, it's really shifted how I go about my year. And I feel like it's because of obviously what you share, your interpretation of the number, then what I take back and I integrate and how I,
Mm.
manifest that through my year. It's been so extremely potent, more than an astrology reading or a human design reading. Like they all have their different vibrations. But I feel like with numerology, I take the power back into my own hands and I can like work it and I can create, what I want out of it.
Yes, yes. Okay, that just made me feel so excited because that's what I want all these tools to do for people, and especially numbers. And yes, you said something so key about like typecasting or feeling kind of pigeonholed by some of our placements, or, and I think somewhere along the way, like our maybe this is with the rise of individualism, which has its own problematic areas, but at some point we did really want to be like personality typed. Like at some point that became very prominent. And I think a lot of these modalities, while yes, I have already waxed poetic about how we can explore ourselves, I do think that they're not necessarily meant to be boiled down to like these personality types, like you were saying, you are this, which means this, it just, they're thematic opportunities
Mm,
to, yeah, to like dig into all of the ways that that could possibly express. And then it's so contextually relevant to everyone's individual lives and experiences that, yes, then you get to look at that buffet and say like, oh, this one resonates or this one doesn't. And but then also, in ways that we're not shying away from very real lessons or challenges or growth within the numbers. But yeah, I think a lot of these, like you brought up repeating numbers, and I read something else after I had taught that workshop, which it's going to be on YouTube soon. I'm going to throw it up there. Yeah, because it was free. So I'm like, let's just put it out there.
I love
Um,
that you're using different mediums. Shut up.
trying my best. I'm trying to be a witch on the internet. Um,
I
it's-
know. I just like that.
thank you, thank you, thank
From our
you.
side conversation.
Um, I'm like, unfortunately, I need cheerleading and reassurance. Thank you.
I got you.
Um,
I got you with that.
but in that, so after I gave that talk, I read something else about repeating numbers from another online witch who was trying to link them further back to like an ancient lineage. And I think what I tried to do in my talk was to link them to repeating patterns in nature. So what are like
Mhm.
the golden spiral? What is meiosis and mitosis within cell growth? Like, how can we look at nature and biology? Oh, thank you.
That was
That
beautiful. I love
that's what
how you
came
linked
through
it with
for
nature.
me, was like, how would these older minds who were not, that we know of, thinking so much in personality typing, but we're looking at numbers and mathematical patterns in the world to help them understand the world and the one who made the world. So, and everything in between, right? And so, and then you also go upwards with like sacred geometry in the stars, and that is literally astrology. You know, how are we relating mathematically and geometrically to the universe above us as well? But this other person was trying to link kind of repeating numbers to these ancients, quote unquote, in a way that I don't know that there is factual evidence to support that. I don't know that there isn't. I haven't done the research, but I don't know that anything in my research of any thinker kind of in these times we like to look at, you know, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, Greeks, Romans, were like, 444 means you are in the right place at the right time. You know, like, I don't know that exists. I think that came later. I think that aspect of assigning meaning to these patterns in ways that connect them to celestial beings, like, I really do think that was channeled in by this woman, Doreen Virtue, and more. You know, she's
Mhm.
just the one who, for everyone that gets a book deal, there are
Right.
there are other ones who did
So
not make
true.
it that far.
So true.
But she became like the leading voice. And then, yes, I, like you said before, has now denounced all of that work. And so, again, all the way back full circle to that seven energy, it does feel very kind of generative in terms of these things are changing and
Yeah.
shifting and being channeled by human beings who change their minds
Mhm.
and decide other things later on in their lives, and who are faulty channels, you know, to begin with, like faulty
Absolutely.
but humble channels.
Absolutely.
So
Hmm.
what we do with the information is a real question of mine always.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And it's so interesting because even just today, and they're called angel numbers, right? The repeating number, angel numbers. And
Yeah, yeah. I call them repeating numbers because I think
okay.
I'm trying to move away from the term angel
Hmm.
numbers,
Hmm.
because that specifically was what Doreen Virtue like
Hmm.
attributed these numbers to biblical angels,
Hmm.
which is just the irony of then
I
renouncing
know.
that
Exactly.
word
Like,
for the Bible.
ma'am, like if they're angels, like, come on. There's angels in the Bible. But even one of my other numerology teachers who I love, Source God, he shares that numbers are angles, right? Because if you look at them, they're angles, different angle points. And so angles, angels. And so, he definitely connects to the ancient Egyptians, definitely ancient practices. So I don't even know if he's aware of her work. But again, just that seeing how that shows up, that angel vibration, and what are angels? They're messenger of God. What are
Mm,
numbers? What are these patterns in the world? They're messages from God. It's like, how do we interpret them? How do we connect them? And what individual message are we getting? Because, God is going to tell you, like, 444, is God saying that to, everybody? At every point in their life, I don't know, maybe, maybe not, but what do you think? What do you feel? And it's just again that taking the power back in your own hands and interpreting it and constantly questioning and reflecting and yeah, I mean I definitely resonate with numbers as being angles and angels, for sure.
yeah.
It definitely resonates with me.
I like that a lot. I really do. And I also just want to clarify that I do work with angels in my own
Mhm.
practice, and that everything I say about Doreen Virtue is coming from a place of Doreen Virtue's decks were the first tarot decks that I worked with after leaving the church because she was referencing angels that I already knew and felt connected to. And
Makes
so,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, and so a lot of what makes her work a little problematic is, well, a lot problematic, but like specifically these decks was that she changed the names of a lot of like the harsher tarot cards, like Death and the Tower and Judgment, and she renamed them to make them gentler. And there did come a time in my own personal practice where I was ready to work with the actual cards as they exist because it felt a little spiritual bypassy to me to keep working with that. But it played such a key role in my evolution, like my spiritual evolution, to be able to have tools that spoke in the language that I was already familiar and loving, and that could bridge the gap between, religion
Yeah.
and more of an eclectic, open spirituality. That and all of that being said, the angles and the angels, I really love that because angels are messengers. And if you think of the other messenger archetypes throughout mythology and like different modalities, even you have Hermes,
Mhm.
the messenger god of the Greek pantheon. You have Loki, who is absolutely a messenger in the Nordic gods, and all of these characters
Papa Leg
too.
Bob.
Yes, 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 yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. And all of these characters too have this trickster
Mhm.
angle of them
Mhm.
because, again, language is this very funny, concrete thing that doesn't actually capture what it's going after. And I think numbers and angles and angels, like what that all makes me think of is that there is an inherent trickster energy to divine code and to
Yeah.
divine messages.
And what
Because
does that do? That opens the door to spirit. That's how you get to.
yes, yeah, and you have to engage with it and you have to work with it and you
Yeah.
have to do some tussling and do a lot of questioning. Does this make sense to
Yeah.
me? Does it not?
Yeah.
And so I do really love the connection between messengers and messages and numbers because I absolutely think that is a total meeting point for all of the things that we're talking about. And I just, as we grow in our own practices, I just think we speak the language more fluently. And then with fluency comes greater expansion.
Yes.
Oh, it's like they say you don't know a language until you can make a joke in the language.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, like that's some level of like conversational fluency is if you can understand humor. And I
Hmm.
actually think that vibes very much with what we're talking about
Oh,
in numbers, this
absolutely.
like
You can't
divine
understand
trickster
the
energy.
language unless you make a joke out of it. I love that. I love
Yeah, like if
that.
you can hear the cosmic joke in
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
then like you're speaking it. Yeah.
But look at that. Look at Loki and Papa Legba and all these tricksters like coming up all in our conversation. Love it. Open the doors to make things click. I love it. I love it. So what I also love, in terms of like working with the numbers, like that's like what I loved about this book because I'm a very practical witch, bitch, like all the things like with my Virgo side. So I love the fact that you gave rituals, you connected it with the tarot, you connected it with astrology, so many you got tarot spreads in here, all like I love it so much. So in turn, like on this podcast we talk all about intuitive wellness, right? Like what does it mean for you to connect and to be well, and you speak about numbers and how you can work with numbers in your daily life. And I know I definitely do. I tune into the vibrations of numbers. Like today, do you know what today is? I haven't
Oh my
calculated
gosh,
today.
I do. So it's July 4th. We're
Mhm.
hello, we are here on this day.
Yes.
So 7-4 by itself is an 11 number,
Mm.
and I've already shared that I might not be the dreamiest person to be talking about 11
Now,
energy.
rough around 11.
I know, right? No, 11 is the idealist, and
Yeah.
I think that for a day like July 4th and all of its
Big
cultural
word.
meanings, especially in the
Hmm.
United States of America,
Hmm.
11 is a very like it is this is what it could be. Like 11 holds all of the possibilities. And
Mm.
so that is beautiful, romantic, lofty energy that says, who cares? Like, this is how good it could be. Let's go for that. Like, let's shoot for that. There's like a real yearning and a real like higher perspective and expansiveness for 11. And then its root number is 2, which is very early on in the spiral and puts our boots on the ground in a way that we really do desire to connect and to be in love and in relationship with others. And it's very heart-centered energy. And it's also very sensitive and tender. So the dichotomy of 11 and 2 is interesting. But you asked about practical application, and like that's if you're looking for a place to start with numbers in your daily life, it does not have to be complicated. It really can just be, what are the numbers of the day? And what does that make me think about?
Mm. Mhm.
Or then what themes? Okay, so if today's an 11 day, then 11 is psychic energy. I'm definitely going to spend some time in meditation, or I'm definitely going to spend time connecting, having these higher vibe conversations with people who are like-minded seekers and strivers and can hold this ideal picture of things, in their mind's eye and in their inspirational space. So yeah, that's just the easiest way to kind of get into it. But like you said, I really did try and provide a buffet, which is making things harder for me now as I try to write a second book, but it
You
does mean
did.
that one is jam-packed with
It
stuff.
is jam-packed. Like you have myths in here, all of it. Which I love. Like I have like all I've written in it. It's like
That's honestly
all
a dream.
it's a working book. It's a working grimoire for real, for sure. For sure. But yeah, with working with numbers, there's rituals in here, herbal allies, in here as well. And so when thinking about intuitively being well, do you use numbers in your daily practices? I mean, you shared a little bit about how, maybe planning meetings on an 11 day or spending times in meditation, but do you find that that really helps you in your journey to being and feeling well, incorporating numbers in any way?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I would love to tell you that I have a buttoned up, beautiful, blessed, booked, thriving daily practice. That's unfortunately not very true of me. I cannot be structured in that way. But yes, I do keep an eye on my own numbers, just especially in times of struggle or strife. And I find that by connecting back in with my numbers or the numbers of the day, then I can start to move the needle for myself in terms of processing my, whatever's coming up for me in that moment so that it doesn't have to like ruin the day or linger or um, whatever emotional experience I'm having. But then I add it to all of my craft. Like I consider
Mhm.
numbers in terms of how many items, like ritual items I'm using, or how many cards I'm pulling that day. I think about the positioning of things on the table, like on my altar. I like to have a lot of things on the altar, but I think of groupings depending on,
Yeah.
yeah, like what I'm doing. And I think a lot of that like spiritual crafting and like meaning making does really keep me well because it keeps me
Mhm.
connected to the part of me that is always creating and communicating and communing with magic or mystery. And then, yeah, I think where I am personally right now is like trying to just allow more things to be neutral. You know, what we perceive as positive and negatives can occupy more of like a neutral space so that we're not yearning in any direction. And I think the numbers
I love that.
tend to like remind me that I can be really grounded in the midst of like big swings,
Mm,
or like just using seven as an example. It's like seven is the invitation to go deeper, but seven is also the invitation to escape.
mhm,
And there's neither one is good or bad. But which one am I choosing in that moment, and
mhm.
which one is going to be the more empowered choice, I think.
Ooh,
Yeah.
empowered choice. Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And just even thinking about like 11 energy. And I think for me today is a 2 day. And just having this conversation is definitely a dream, not only for me, but as a humanitarian, kind of just sharing this knowledge and information and just empowering others with the embodied or the empowered person is
Yeah.
just so beautiful. So thank you for that on this 11 day and personal 2 day for me. Feels really, really, really special. So on the lines of two and connecting, how can people connect with you? What kind do you have going on right now? I know I just want to say I loved the first stop on the road trip. It was so beautiful. And I, like you said, I know a lot of this information, but just to see a different view of it was just so powerful and was just so enlightening, and it was so fun. Like I loved the little, car, like, what do you need to do kind of things on the road trip. So if you don't mind sharing where people can connect with you, what you have going on right now, and yeah, anything that you want to share with our
Yeah.
audience before we close out.
Yeah, thank you. And then I have to give you your flowers before we get off. You've said way too many nice things about me today without me reciprocating in all of the ways. But yeah, so you can find me online. My website is www.rebeccaskolnick.com,
Mm.
and you can find my books on there. You can find calendar information for booking private readings with me. I do.
Y'all, these readings, get your significant six, okay? First off, to start you off, and then just book your yearly.
Thank you. Yes, I do need to open. I just reopened my books for the summer, so I'm very excited about that. And I do have very limited readings available right now. So the significant six is kind of where I start. It's six numbers at the core of your chart, three from your birthday, three from your name. And name can be what you were given at birth, it can be what you use now. There is no ceiling or floor. The limit does not exist, whatever name you want to look at. Um,
Mhm.
so if you have something else in mind for a one-on-one reading, book the significant six. That's my hour rate. And then tell me in the notes what you want to talk about. And I'm happy to figure out like what I want to be of service. So whatever's going to work the best for you. So yes, online you can find books, you can find readings, and then you can also find my event schedule for the summer. So if you're in LA, I'm in LA, or if you're a Southern California babe, I'm actually teaching Numerology 101, super basics live at Open Eye Crystals in LA on July 20th, which I'm very excited about doing. Now that I'm saying that, maybe it's the 21st. No, I think it's the 20th. And then the next day on the 21st is the second stop of the road trip. So the road trip is a workshop series that I'm doing this summer. It's 3 workshops. One already happened, but you can get the replay. And then there are two more, one in July, one in August. And the idea behind this was going back to basics in a way that will pull you into your present moment. Because when so much is kind of chaotic on the external, we lose ourselves in that, and we lose where we are and where we're going. And I really think it's only when we know who we are and where we want to go that we can actually then add our gifts, our skills, our action to the collective action, which is very much needed right now. And so I'm hopeful that this is an offering that's going to pull everyone into their center. So then that can ripple out kind of into community and collective action. So the first one was on the life path number and the public persona number. And yes, there were a lot of car metaphors. It was very fun for me to reflect on this basic information in new ways. So thank you for that validation and that feedback. The one in July will be called Where the Fuck Am I? And it will be an exploration of
In
numerological
August?
timing.
In
No,
August?
in July.
Oh, it's July. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
What's the
yeah.
date of
There's one on
July?
July 21st
Okay.
is the second stop on the road trip.
Thank
So
you.
the day after my live workshop. And that's yeah, where the fuck am I? And it's using numerological timing techniques to figure out where you are in some of these larger life cycles. So we're going to be looking at a few modalities to pinpoint where, you know, find some like shorter chunks of the life so it doesn't feel quite so wild, and see like pinpoint exactly where you are in these cycles. And then in August will be the third one. I believe it's on the 24th of August. And it's what if I hate my life path? It's going to be a whole workshop on disappointing digits and looking at the real practical gifts of each path so that if you don't feel connected or you hate your number or whatever, my hope is to have everybody walk away with at least one thing that they can be like, yeah, I really feel good about that,
I
about
love
my
that.
number. So yeah, I actually feel very open for business at the moment. So thank you for inviting this connection. I am teaching, I have readings, and then I also am available. So if anybody has communities that they want to do an event or a talk or something like that, please reach out and let me know. I would love to speak to the people you love. So thank you, Christine, for having me on.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure. Like I said, you're one of my favorite teachers out there. I just love you and the magic that you're creating and producing in this world. And so it's such an honor and a pleasure to always swim in the soup with you. She has an amazing Substack as well. And so check that out. We'll put all the links below. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. And now I have to say, you are a light in every room that you are in. You bring such a beautiful generosity of spirit and a curiosity that is infectious. And, you know, you want to talk about seeker energy, like you really bring seeker energy to every space, but in this way that just feels so calm, cool, and collected. Like everything that you learn is just bringing you into fuller expression of who you are and what you're here to do. And I just truly, I pinch myself every time after we hop off anything because I think all time with you is a gift. I am so excited for your students on in Cosmic Wisdom School, and I'm going to be there too. And I can't wait to now be in the student seat in a classroom where you are the teacher, because I truly just I bow to all of your wisdom, all of your experience, and I'm just truly like so grateful to know and love you.
Same, same, same. As it's
Yeah.
11 o'clock on this 11 day.
Yes.
Thank you so much. The love is received. Thank you. I receive, I receive, I receive, I receive. And yeah, thank you for helping awaken some of this curiosity in me. And it's really changed my life. So y'all get these readings. It can like, I mean, I'm speaking from experience, but it could possibly change yours. And it's just enlightening every time. So as it's 11:01, we'll say bye. And
Bye.
thank
Thank you
you so
so much.
much. Wasn't that so good? I love B. I love B. You saw the love fest between us both, but um, I think it showed. We have been so pivotal. I'll speak for myself. She has been so pivotal for my spiritual journey, and I just love her. So I'm glad that y'all got to experience some of her magic. Make sure that you check out her offerings, which will all be linked below. It's transformed my life, and it's been beautiful. If you're joining us in Cosmic Wisdom School this summer or on Bee's road trip, I'm sure you'll learn more and dive deeper into the alchemy that the numbers can provide you with. So I just want to thank y'all for joining me on this journey of the Intuitive Wellness Experiment podcast. I hope you found inspiration and insight in your exploring intuitive living and wellness. Remember, your intuition is a powerful tool for navigating life challenges and discovering your true path. I encourage you to experiment with embracing your intuition, cultivating self-awareness, and step into your spiritual sovereignty. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you will know when new episodes come out. Leave a comment, share with a friend, share with somebody who's curious about numerology. And might possibly benefit from this conversation. So until next time, journey in grace and compassion, trust your intuition, live authentically, and empower yourself to create a life that allows you to feel and be well. Merci beaucoup. Merci en pile. Until next time, talk to y'all later. Thank you so much for listening.